you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you had no idea. You have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country and this world. You have no idea. You have no idea the fire that you have ignited within this wife.
It began in the unlikeliest of places, outside State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. A place that, for one weekend, had become a fortress of grief and remembrance. Tens of thousands were gathering to mourn Charlie Kirk, the controversial conservative activist, co-founder of Turning Point USA, gunned down on September 10th at Utah Valley University. His death shocked a nation, polarized communities, and now, his memorial was set to draw nearly 100,000 mourners, politicians, and high-profile figures under the tightest federal security designation, SEER Level 1. And yet, into this heavily guarded landscape walked Joshua Runkles, a 42-year-old man carrying a loaded pistol, a revolver, multiple knives, and expired law enforcement credentials. Credentials he flashed with confidence, as if they gave him authority. But they didn't. Within moments, he was arrested, charged with impersonating an officer and carrying weapons into a prohibited place. His defense? He claimed he was performing advanced security for a guest. Turning Point USA quickly denied any connection. So the questions burn hotter than ever. Who was Joshua really working for? Who sent him? Was this just a reckless stunt, or the first glimpse of something deeper? If you care about what really happened here, if you want answers instead of headlines, subscribe now. Because if you don't, who will demand the truth? In the days leading up to Charlie Kirk's memorial, preparations stretched across every corner of State Farm Stadium. September 19th and 20th, security was layered, federal agencies on site, local police coordinating with the Secret Service. This was a high-alert zone, no detail too small. And still, Joshua Runkles walked in armed, confident, carrying expired law enforcement credentials. He introduced himself as if he belonged, claiming an affiliation, suggesting he was on official duty. But trained eyes saw something off. His conduct drew suspicion. Secret Service agents moved in. Arizona Department of Public Safety officers closed ranks. Within moments, the facade collapsed. A search turned up a loaded pistol, a revolver, several knives. Weapons he carried into what was meant to be one of the most secure events in the nation. The credentials? Expired, inactive, meaningless. The authority he claimed? False. His charges, impersonation of law enforcement, and carrying a weapon into a prohibited place. Soon after, he was released on bond. The target wasn't Charlie Kirk, he was already gone. The threat was everyone else, the massive crowd of mourners, the high-profile figures expected, Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and more. The risk wasn't just physical violence, it was the erosion of public trust. If someone could slip through by pretending to be law enforcement, what else could be breached? And then comes the harder question, who is Joshua Runkles? Was he simply chasing recognition, clinging to an identity of authority long gone? Was this an ideological act, or the desperate spiral of a man who wanted to matter? He once held a badge from Franklin County, an ID from Idaho law enforcement. But the reality is darker. Impersonation, weapons, proximity to power, this isn't random. It hints at planning, delusions of grandeur, maybe even extremism simmering beneath the surface. If you believe justice requires more than arrests, if you want the system to answer hard questions, smash that subscribe button. Because if you stay silent, you let them off easy. The charges were laid out in black and white. Impersonating a law enforcement officer, a felony. Carrying a weapon into a prohibited place. In the courtroom, the details were almost too ordinary. Bond was set, $500, an appearance bond with the condition that Joshua Runkles stay away from State Farm Stadium. Just like that, he walked back into the world. But the questions stayed behind. heavier than ever. And that's where the story takes a darker turn. A fictional detective, Mara Hughes, was assigned to re-examine the case files. What she uncovered wasn't just about one man. Buried in internal memos were warnings, concerns about gaps in security at State Farm Stadium. Reports that had been pushed aside, dismissed as unlikely risks. Even whispers that someone flagged Runkles weeks before his arrest, but no follow-up was ever made. Inside the hearing, the exchange was chilling. The judge asked, "Mr. Runkles, how do you explain possessing expired credentials? And why were you armed in a restricted zone?" And calmly, Runkles replied, "I believed I was authorized. I thought I was helping." But helping who? That's the question that rattles louder the deeper you go. Psychologists have tried to sketch him, a man craving recognition, desperate to stand in authority's shadow. Perhaps radicalized, perhaps unstable, perhaps both. At 42 years old, with claims of prior law enforcement ties, and a residence out of state, his identity feels less like a record, and more like a mask. And then comes the reveal. Detective Hughes says she has evidence that Runkles wasn't acting alone. That there are financial ties, money transferred from unnamed donors, masked through layers of accounts. That he was paid by an unidentified group to provide security. But no names, no faces, no answers, not yet. If that's true, we may not be looking at one man's obsession. We may be staring into a conspiracy, funded and hidden. If you think this matters, if you believe the public deserves the full truth, subscribe now. Because if you don't, tell me, how can we demand accountability if we don't stay informed? As of now, Joshua Runkles walks free on bond. The trial inches forward, the charge is plain enough: impersonation of a law enforcement officer, carrying weapons into a prohibited place. On paper, it's simple. But in reality, it's far from closed. Prosecutors hint the stakes could rise if deeper ties are proven, if evidence shows coordination, motive, or a wider plot. Turning Point USA, the Secret Service, and Arizona DPS all issued careful statements. They insisted Runkles was not part of official security. They assured the public there was no belief he intended anything nefarious. Yet that reassurance rings hollow for many. How could an armed man with expired credentials step so close to the heart of a Level 1 security event? And the questions that linger may be the most dangerous of all. Did Runkles act alone, or was someone directing him? Were communication failures between federal and state agencies quietly buried? Was this an aborted attack, a rehearsal, or simply the masquerade of a man obsessed with authority? And in his past, his claims of law enforcement, his expired IDs, are there traces of an ideology, or the fingerprints of a group we still can't name? Beyond the legal charges lies a moral indictment. What does it say about power when someone can impersonate it so easily? When a badge, expired, inactive, opens doors trust should have kept closed? The danger isn't just Joshua Runkles. It's the blind trust we give authority, the risk we shoulder when that trust is betrayed. If you've listened this far but don't subscribe, ask yourself, are you letting this story vanish into silence? Because silence helps cover abuse of power. The mystery isn't over. We know more now, but the truth isn't whole. Who sent him? What was his real intention? Until those answers surface, this story isn't finished. Subscribe so you'll be here when the truth drops. And if you won't, leave a comment. Tell us why. Here's what we know for certain. Joshua Runkles, 42 years old, was arrested outside the Charlie Kirk Memorial event in Glendale, Arizona. The charges are real: impersonating a law enforcement officer, carrying weapons into a prohibited place. When he was taken into custody, he had a handgun, knives, and expired law enforcement credentials. Turning Point USA confirmed he was not part of their official security. At most, they suggested he was doing ad hoc protection for a guest, something never cleared with federal or state security teams. And remember, this wasn't just another gathering. This memorial was classified as a SEER Level 1 event, the highest federal security tier, because of its scale. 100,000 people were expected, with political heavyweights set to take the stage. The margin for error was non-existent. Now, some parts of this story stretch into speculation. A detective's name. Internal memos. Possible motives or funding. These are threads used to explore the possibilities, not confirmed facts. They raise the questions we don't yet have answers to, but the verified core remains untouched, a man with weapons, with expired credentials, standing inside the security bubble of one of the most high-profile events of the year.
It's not supposed to be any kind of craziness happening at this time.
He had a phone.